Come on, man. Only room for improvement after that first 2023 introduction. So, anyway, starting off today, Anton is here with us.
What's up, everybody?
Jen from Modrutz is here and going to hang with us for a little while. But of course, we are going to get into the one of the featured stories today is the great program that you guys are joining forces with the Redemption Foundation over. But Jen's been around this arena in cannabis for many years and can talk about everything that we're talking about. So just be prepared to be part of other conversations too, Jen. And obviously, Rick, as usual, we're at least always here.
I should put that on my business cards. Obviously, Rick.
Obviously, Rick as usual.
Right. Boring, simple, the same old guy. Right. Yes. As usual, Rick.
And of course, I'm just dedicating this first week to not having to do too much or leaping into too many resolutions that I'm just going to break anyway. So on purpose, I did not update any of the sponsor stuff just to take it easy on myself. So we'll go with what we got and remember that Meds Cafe is also in this lineup, but there'll be a real one coming up here soon.
Of course, Jazz Cabbage Cafe is always sponsored by Stone Depot, Redemption Cannabis, Real Leaf Solutions, Detroit Nutrient Company, GrowGreenMI.com, Custom 420 promos with that great culture clothing, and of course, Meds Cafe.
And Josie Scoggin joins us.
Hey, Jose.
Hey.
Showing off.
Big bag of weed. Yeah. Everything's better with a big bag of weed.
Yours is bigger than mine.
Thanks for having me on today. Sorry it was late and unprepared without a joint, so I would like to go last in introductions.
Good luck, because now you're first. We've already done that. You hardly need an introduction, but I did mention that Redemption Foundation is part of this project that we're going to be discussing today, and we're looking forward to that. I think it's a really cool thing.
I'm so proud of it. And it was Jen's idea. Jen is the mastermind of it. I would not have done it without her. In fact, she almost did it without me. She was like, bitch, I want to do this with or without you. I was like, you ain't doing it without me, girl.
I read a couple of the posts that Jen benefited from such a thing herself at one point and sees the value in it and is very much so invested in trying to help others in the same way. And I think it's really cool. I can imagine somebody having some, sense of completion of something started that was difficult at one point in their life. Or
we probably couldn't pass the GED. Like there was a study done and like less than half of college graduates in the study couldn't pass the GED. It's been a long time since I've been in high school and probably longer since y'all. And so the people that are getting GEDs are people that really need them. They're doing it for a reason, They're not just hey, this would be nice. There's usually an end goal involved in it. And for Jen, I think it was cosmetology school.
Yeah. Yep, it was. You can't get into cos school without a GED or a high school diploma.
And is that similar for many like proprietary kind of certificate-based, programs?
Yeah, trade schools, iron worker, locals like that, plumbing apprenticeships, things like that. Programs like that do require a GED or a high school diploma minimum. Yep.
And also, a lot of people talk about how people who are incarcerated get offered GED classes or GED courses in jail, and that is true. But it's not an intuitive learning environment, right? Nobody is in prison and they're like, wow, I'm going to learn a lot of shit here. It is not a place where people usually are able to grow, expand, feel safe, And for a lot of folks who get involved in the system at a very early age, that is the reason that they need to get their GED. You know, you take 1 or 2 years off of school, and it's really hard to get back in the swing of things.
I think it's really cool, and I'm glad that there's a practical application right away. But I can imagine, somebody just having a little sense of self-worth after completing a program, like that, and preparing themselves to have more options, in the workforce. So I just think it's really cool. Jen, let's just talk about you for a minute here. As I said earlier in the show, you've been participating in this arena for a long time in different ways. And, currently you have the Modrutz. That's, if I'm not mistaken, that's a hemp company.
Yeah. CBD and hemp. Yeah.
And, I know that you've had a journey, you have some testimony yourself, and, and you have this company and some other stuff that you're doing. If you just kind of want to fill people in a little bit more about where you're coming from, I think that could be nice for some.
Yeah. There probably is a lot of people who know who I am, and maybe a lot of people that don't know who I am, but I've been involved in the scene since early campaigning for medicinal marijuana. Back, 2009, I think I met you, Jamie, and I've just been involved ever since. It's something really important to me. I have my own chronic illnesses. I have a connective tissue disorder. So I've been using cannabis to help manage the symptoms and disarray that goes on with a systemic problem like that. It's genetic. I was born with it. So I've just been around the block. I'm also involved with iHemp Michigan. So as soon as the Farm Bill passed, that was another initiative that I knew I just had to get behind and push it. I feel like I've watched yours and Rick's journey with the cannabis and the traveling and, the educating. And this hemp's been a tough one, though. It hasn't been super easy to bring hemp infrastructure online. But I jumped on as soon as it went. I joined a company that provided genetics for the hemp industry. I learned how to, research and develop hemp genetics, how to plant, how to farm. I got a lot of hands-on experience. And then eventually started my own business. I was kind of set up in the industry where I knew everybody that I needed to know and everything I had access to start my own CBD business. And I was already passionate behind the plants. So I just jumped on it. I went for it. And again, that'll kind of bring us back to real quickly the GED program. I got that when I was 28 years old. So I'm 42 now. That was it hung over my head, not having a high school diploma. And, I was turned 22 and didn't have it. And then I was 25 and, I had my second child, and it hung over my head. And you're right, Jamie, like that empowerment that it gave me. I've done so much good with myself after that. Like it was like once I got my GED in 2008, unstoppable. I mean, I think it was 2009. I had received congressional recognition from Debbie Stabenow. Think about that. Going from, and let me add, I dropped out in 8th grade, you guys. So this is somebody who I just couldn't. I had learning disabilities. I grew up in an unconventional manner from those teenage years, and high school wasn't an option for me. I mean, it's just not something I could do, and it ate me up. I mean, immediately within the first year, I regretted dropping out. I was like, oh, shit. And I'd studied for the GED and stuff, but it's just really hard. It's a lot of information. I'm so lucky. It was a program just like what Josie and I are creating is I went to Michigan Works. As long as I went to the class, they paid for my GED test. They helped me study. I did that. And another cool thing that kind of demonstrates what a game changer and mover and shaker I am at Michigan Works, the No Workers Left Behind program. Have you guys ever heard of that? It was such a great program back then. That's another reason of why I am who I am. Well, they were offering scholarships, and cosmetology school was not on that scholarship list. It wasn't something that Michigan Works had conventionally thought about. They were doing scholarships for a lot of different avenues, but not for this. So for myself and people behind me, I actually got cosmetology school on that accepted career path to get a scholarship. So I think that's kind of what came in line with the congressional recognition that I received, that they noticed right away I'm a powerhouse. I mean, as soon as I chose my choice, I was unstoppable. Here we are, 2023. I own my own business. I support so many good causes. I do so much good work in the hemp, the cannabis, in my community space. I mean,
That's just the truth. Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah, that's excellent. I appreciate that little background that you gave yourself. That really helps, I think, some people put into perspective with how you're here working on this kind of thing. And obviously Redemption Foundation, we've talked about a lot, and that organization helps to get behind many great causes, philosophically based around trying to repair damage done by war on cannabis over the years. And obviously Josie is director of that foundation, plus Glenn and Sons and Daughters and all that kind of stuff. So what a great pairing all the way around, and really just like this program a lot. Jose, what do you want to add?
So I want to talk a little bit about the program and what it does. And there are 12 weeks of instructions. You must register by January 15th. You can register online at theredemptionfoundation.org/GED readiness. That's READINESS. I know it's a weird, English is hard. We will cover all the cost, and we're giving technology grants right now to get people computers so that they can do this on their own at home, online, and anywhere in the state of Michigan. In-person classes are available in Ann Arbor. Over this year, we're hoping to expand this to other community colleges or other GED courses. We cover all the fees. The instruction stuff comes with it. Also, there's some career navigation, and you get a student success coach within the program. And it's important to note that people spend their entire lives, struggling to do this, and $350 is a lot of money, and the ability to just go take the test after not being in school for 20-30 years is difficult. It would be difficult for each and every one of us. And what we want to do at the Redemption Foundation is create, is that me?
Yes.
Damn it. Is create services for current or former cannabis prisoners, their families. And that's my favorite part of this program, is it's not just for people who have had cannabis charges, but also for their children, for their wives, for their loved ones, for anybody that's been affected by the war on cannabis. So when we think usually about incarceration and long-term incarceration and who that affects, all the statistics are typically talking about the prisoners themselves and very little about the families that they left behind. And so when Jen had the idea to do this, that was the part that I was like most grateful for, was the ability to, and I think that is what we also ironically have been doing at Sons and Daughters, is creating services for people whose loved ones get incarcerated, and the ones that are left behind are the ones that have to pick up those pieces. And so unfortunately, due to our great American justice system, a good portion of people who have been incarcerated for small petty drug crimes, and a good portion of those crimes have been cannabis. And I know that we're all smoking weed in the streets, or at least I am, and it's hard to remember. Prohibition was only 3-4 years ago, but it's still heavy and hard now, and there's people that we love and respect that don't deserve what they're getting, and obviously Chewy would be one of those that are still footing the bill. So I'm so excited to be a part of this. I'm so excited that Jen reached out to me, trusted me with her vision. I do also want to mention that at the foundation, we've been really working to create programs that change lives, right? It's really great to be involved in something that can change the entire course of how people see the criminal justice system, how they see themselves, how their children see them, and how they interact with the world around them. And when we're creating systems like this and to create something that benefits our Great Lakes State, the place that we love, is so righteous. So please sign up at theredemptionfoundation.org and /GED readiness.
Well, I'll share a story from my own life. My youngest son did not graduate high school. He just wasn't a good fit for high school learning for the last 2 years. And just last year or the year before, he completed his GED as part of a training program for an apprenticeship program. And he is now a second-year millwright's apprentice, and next year he'll be a full journeyman. And it's all because he was successfully able to get the GED done. And again, there are organizations out there trying to help people to complete this part of their life. The part of this, it's not just your education; it's part of your life. And he had such a sense of pride when he completed that, and when he was able to share with us, the results of his testing. So it really does make a huge difference, and he's doing so great now. He really is. And before, it was uncertain exactly how he was going to live the rest of his life, but now he's found exactly where he fits because he was able to secure that GED.
Well, and I think too, one can argue in today's world that having a GED or a high school diploma is actually probably more important than a college degree, right? I mean, when we look at the state of the economy and the state of academic debt, somebody who can get their GED and then go to a trade school and get an apprenticeship and come out making, 50, 60, 70K a year without having $100,000 or $200,000 in debt, you can argue that those folks are going to get a greater start or a greater leg up than people that are going to college for years. They're in their 20s by the time they get out. If they go for a master's degree or a doctorate degree, you're almost 30 by the time you're done with that, and you're saddled with debt. So the GED offering that is tremendous, and it actually will impact lives in a way because we need more folks getting involved with the trades. And if people want to go on to college and get that degree, then cool, more power to them. But the GED is a key. So kudos to y'all.
And the GED really is the pathway to college. If you want to get a college admission, if you want to be able to fill out an application, you have to have completed your high school education in one way or another.
But also, the aid elimination policy, which came into effect in 1986, which said pretty much if you had more than if you had 2 or more misdemeanor drug crimes, even if those are just possession of marijuana, that you were no longer eligible for FAFSA or student loans, right? And when we're talking about student loans, you have to fucking pay back. This was something that made people, they already couldn't get jobs that could secure salaries that would be able to pay for even community college, right? Because of these charges. But now they couldn't enter college if they wanted to. And so for a lot of folks, why get a GED? Why? I'm not going to go to college. It's not accessible for me, whatever. So believe it or not, Trump removed the aid elimination policy at the end of his term. And prior, there were hundreds of thousands of students who were affected by it, who were forced to pay back the money that they had already been through or lose the credits that they had. And so for college to be inaccessible for people, for such a large class of people, right, that are typically, Black or brown folks or people with little to no money, that leaves out the ability to build generational wealth.
Like Josie mentioned, doing things that change the course of someone's life. I'm not trying to slam anything. You get a turkey dinner, you eat for a day. You get Christmas presents, you celebrate for a day. But you get a GED, the whole course of your life can change. big time stuff we're talking here.
And it's something that people, the people that are signing up to do a GED are fierce about it. They're dedicated. They're ready. You know, this is an entire. They know the gratitude, the gravity of what's up next. And for people who go through our expungement program and then get a GED and go into a trade, I mean, that is a full circle. That's incredible.
Do we have any idea where in the state the most people without completing high school education live? Is there a demographic created for that particular statistic or not?
I don't have the statistics for that.
I think I think everyone assumes that in urban settings, because the school systems are so underfunded and ill-attended, that we see more of that in urban settings. But more and more, I see people that are doing things like homeschooling, which means that you're still getting an education, but you may not necessarily be receiving a certificate that shows your level of achievement, which means a homeschooler may need to take a GED test in order to get that. I mean, that's a reality. Jen, you know more about this than anybody. You've been through a program like that. What do you think about that?
The statistics of it?
Well, just having to take a GED test after homeschooling, and how it might be true that people in rural areas need this assistance just as much as people in urban areas do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like if we were to research the statistics, it's going to be honestly evenly split in a sense, but I'd say, you know, that the inner city areas or any areas that are lower income, you know, or more, the statistics are probably pretty sad, actually, you know, as I think about it and I reflect on it.
I think it probably applies, like you said, Rick, to a lot of, look at your rural folks, people that are dedicated to farms. You know, we have younger folks that have grew up on farmlands that, you know, come harvest season, there is no chance to go to school no matter what, because you got to float the family business. So I think demographically speaking, there's probably challenges for each demographic, which is why this should just always be a, you know, I always go back to the Scandinavian countries. When you go over there, it's all free and it works. And, you know, when you want to go to college, you want to go to high school, whatever. And I like the way that they do it. And it should never not be an option for somebody like Josie's saying, you know, with FAFSA or federal funding. I mean, oftentimes people get into college debt to where the interest accrues and compounds so quickly that they're just paying off interest. They never even get to pay off the actual principal balance, which is a mess in and of itself. And, you know, the travesties that are going on in a lot of academic institutions nowadays, to be for profit and not for that educational benefit that it was meant to be. Money ruins everything, you know, just like everything else. So I just think nobody should never have a chance to not get their GED.
And here's something interesting, is that there is very little funding in terms of public prisons and probably private prisons, because I don't see much of a spike in and very little funding in the GED program itself, right? The people that get paid there are making like $11 to $12, maybe $15 an hour, but very, very close to minimum wage. And they are teaching classes with, you know, GED books that they got 10 years ago, or they're sharing these resources. And when COVID came through, there were no more GED classes in these, and still they have not reinstated any of the GED classes here in Michigan in any of our incarceration facilities. And remember that Michigan had the highest rate of COVID deaths in prisons, in jails, in the entire United States. And we were not even close to being, we had more than Seattle, who was one of the first to get COVID, right? And we had more than places that had zero action or zero lifts or zero whatever. And the problem is that when you have a controlled facility, where people literally cannot get out, and they are responsible. The state is responsible for them. Who is paying? Who is responsible? Right? They couldn't even implement hand sanitizers because they had an alcohol ban on alcohol hand sanitizers, and so people were unable to clean facility. And this is places that are like that house hundreds, almost thousands of people at one time. And so there was a serious drop in funding for extracurricular activities in general, but specifically for education and for things that would be in person. And so when people are getting out and they're entering this, I think when we're talking about statistics, I wonder if there's an overlap between people who are not graduating, who are not completing, and also places where teenagers and young adults are arrested at higher rates.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I've seen those statistics. You're right. You're right on the money with that one, Josie, because they drop out, so their time isn't. But even I fell victim to it. I was getting in a little ruckus, 16, 17 years old, when I should have been in school. I think I've been arrested a few times now. Luckily, I got those 7411. I don't think it's called 7411 anymore. Maybe it is. That was like 1997 and 98, but definitely, the kids aren't in school. The youth isn't in school. They're pretty much left.
I think the 7411 is still around, and it's in each county. There's an opportunity. You have I think it's your first felony or maybe even misdemeanor too, but anyway, crime.
Mine was a misdemeanor.
Honestly, crime, just first crime. To put it off, if you behave over a certain amount of, or you don't get in trouble over a certain amount of months, it won't go on your record. I'm sorry.
I thought it didn't. Right, I thought it didn't go on your record too. And in I think it was 2009, I got pulled over, and the officer had a bag of weed in my car. So it still was not sure if it's cool or not cool. I think I had my medical card, but was still scared. But I got pulled over, and the cop says, "Have you ever been in trouble?" And I'm pulled over in a minivan. I am legit just a mom trying to make it in life, a single mom. And I got pulled over, and he's like, "Have you ever been in any trouble?" And I'm like, No, I've never been in trouble. I haven't been in any trouble. He comes back and he says, "Why'd you lie to me?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, sir, I'm sorry, lie about what?" He said, "You have been in trouble." Well, I had forgotten about that charge. It was so far behind. I'd lived 3 lifetimes, it felt like, since then. And so it turns out that shit never got taken.
It was a dick cop.
It's still there, though. Isn't that?
It's probably available to them stuff. And if I remember when I ran my own iChat, I think my arrests and stuff like that may have shown up, but not I don't really remember exactly what it looked like, to be honest with you, but they have access to that information.
Yeah, they do.
We always have access to it. And also, even with expungement, something that is difficult for my friends to understand is there's no way to expunge your driving record, right? In about 2012, maybe 2013, they started putting drug charges on your driving record, which is unnecessary and whatever. But again, drug users are treated in a different way. And so even if I expunge your drug charge from 5 years ago or 4 years ago, 3 years ago, it's still on your driving record. And most people only want to see your current record, right, from 7 years, but it is public record. It is not a hidden gig. And so something that is flawed with the system, and something that is a bill right now, actually a part of a package of bills, is it would essentially take away arrests like Jamie's talking about, that were, yes, I was arrested, but I wasn't charged, or yes, I was arrested and you guys said I was fucking innocent, bitch. What? And then God, I've been smoking just enough weed to forget the other point there, but that's it.
Yeah, all that stuff does pop up. I mean,
Paul Young's is an attorney, and he's just confirming some stuff that we were talking about. Just wanted to point that out to people.
I guess there's a difference between on your record and did it ever actually occur. I mean, we can't go back and erase time to say that it never actually occurred. And Josie's point is correct that sometimes cross records exist, and even if they wipe it out of one database, it exists in another. So the expungement program itself is impure from the start.
But believe it or not, even all the mess ups that there are in the expungement program and in our criminal justice system, it is still one of the only places you can get a fucking expungement. You know? And here's the whole thing. Two things here. If people, courts, prosecutors, judges, their whole thing is we are not sentencing people for punishment. It's a rehabilitation offering. Here's all the great things we do at our prison. We painted the walls pink, whatever the fuck they got to say, right? And then on the other end of that, there's God damn it, Josie, I'm smoking so much fucking weed. I don't remember what I was saying.
I can relate.
Josie's. I can't remember what I was saying. Clips. That'd be just fucking great.
Yeah, like a whole collection. I'm trying to smoke both of them at the same time because I like how they taste at the same time. You know. Oh, but you do the crime, you do the time, right? And then what are you supposed to pay for that until the day that you die? And so if you're, as a judge, not granting expungements, is saying, hey, I don't believe the system is working. I don't believe you can be rehabilitated. And I am just putting people in jail for no fucking reason at all, right? As a punishment. And that is really controversial because it's not what we as an American criminal justice system have been marketing to the American people, right? It is legitimately probably how it happens, but the idea behind it is that it's not supposed to be a punishment. It's supposed to be a chance to get your shit together and to re-enter society. And so expungement is not controversial. And also, who pays for expungement isn't controversial. The people that should pay for it are the people that are making millions of dollars off the same shit that people went to jail for, right? So I'm so excited to be here with Jen and to be working on a GED program, which again, who's going to pay for this? People that are making money off the industry, right? Every time you buy a redemption product, that helps fuel this GED program. Every time you at a store purchase a wholesale product, that helps fuel this GED program, you know, and it all comes down to making sure that you're purchasing, or at least purchasing cannabis from people who where that purchase matters, you know. Just buy weed from
corporate responsibility. It's one way of putting, exercising your choice of who you do business with and who it benefits.
Buy weed from people that won't smoke weed with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, make no mistake, there are plenty of people.
That's not the case at Redemption, by the way.
Right, exactly. That's my favorite thing about Redemption is I want to buy weed from people that either have skin, and this is the thing about being in such a human industry, is that you either have to have skin in the game, meaning, hey, I went to fucking jail for this, my kids were taken, my dog was shot, here's 150 stories of, like, you could come to my house on a Tuesday and get a bag, that kind of, you know, skin in the game shit. Or you have to put your money where your fucking mouth is, right? Mm-hmm. Say, hey, I didn't get caught, but I could have, and I'm glad I didn't, but I want to make sure that other people have that path. And I see that more so in corporate cannabis. But make no mistake that there's plenty of people that don't give a fuck about you, about the consumer, that sit around and make fun of people and call them stoners and create shitty products dipped in distillate and fake terpenes and sell it to you, and you guys are buying it like crazy, you know? There is so much, again, my thesis in college was 101 ways Ronald Reagan ruined my life in years 2. And he creating the inability to, you know, the only thing we know about buying weed is THC percentage. And the only thing a lot of people are testing is THC percentage. And I was like, hey, we should probably not talk about terpenes too much, because then these bad guys are going to find out about terpenes and everything's going to taste like a blueberry fucking Pop-Tart, and I'm going to be high as hell, but only because they put some weird shit in there, right? Not because it's real. And people are going to buy it, and it's going to change the whole market. And now there's so many infused joints, and they're terpene infused, and you buy that shit, and it means nothing. None of the money goes to a GED program. They're not helping anybody. They live in fucking Colorado, or worse, they live in Florida, refuse to smoke weed. They're like, you know, the worst of the worst.
Redemption, we need brands, good brands like Redemption. I mean, they've stepped up even for the veteran community. You know, Josie, kind of what you do with the expungement stuff is what I'm trying to do with our discharge upgrade clinics that we're kicking off, because we have veterans. Veterans are actually given college. Like, you have the GI Bill, like you went through all that bullshit and you're given this benefit. And then if you're caught with possession of cannabis or its use, they kick your ass out, and then no more benefit, right? So it's like, even on that end, it's just righting the wrongs that people have gone through, and redemption has helped so many different demographics. That
so Anton, just to explain that, that's somebody who was discharged dishonorably, possibly over cannabis, and then you can go back and kind of
yeah.
reassessed.
What they did is, so when you're caught with cannabis possession or use, they usually give you not necessarily dishonorable, but what's called an other than honorable. And once you get they call it no TH, once you're kicked out with that, you don't get your VA benefits, you don't get your GI Bill, you don't get a lot of the goodies that you were supposed to get. So there was a federal law passed in 2016 called the Veterans Fairness Act, which recognized that a lot of these veterans were using cannabis to self-medicate for PTSD and traumatic brain injury. So now there's a process to where you can take those folks and actually submit a package to the DOD and have that OTH upgraded to an honorable. And the second that happens, their GI Bill benefits kick back in, and then they can enroll in college or trade school or whatever they want to do. And to me, that's a big way to right the wrong, because a lot of veterans, A, don't know it exists, and B, it's just a government process, like Josie knows, is bullshit. And they put barriers as high as they can make them, and they don't want you going for these types of things. So it takes folks like us to call them on their bullshit and play their game and actually help some of these people out. So redemption is helping on so many levels. It's amazing.
I will say I am so proud to work for Redemption, to be a part of the Redemption team. It is very much fuck you to the police state for me. You know, this motherfucker was raided. If you don't know, Ryan was raided by the federal government. He spent 2 years, was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. He was literally chased by Black Ops helicopters. Every time I drink tequila, I like brag about it to my friends. I'm like, oh, my boss is street cred. But people don't go on to create businesses. Remember, if you're incarcerated for long terms, you have people deal with chronic depression for up to 10 years. 70%. That's an incredible number. 70% of people that deal with long-term incarceration they have an issue just getting out of bed, let alone starting a business, let alone starting a cannabis business like this. There's never been a federal cannabis prisoner in the United States that has started their own cannabis brand and been successful. Right? Licensed, legal, I'm going to pay taxes on this shit. So I am so excited and proud to work for Ryan. And just that alone is cool and revolutionary. But taking 10% of your overall budget and putting it into real stuff, things that we could easily create a program that is, runs a expungement fair 3 times a month or 3 times a year, or we could easily create a program that does less for less money, but that is not what Basor is about. And we're creating something that that is top notch, that matches the quality of the product that he puts out, that people feel good about. And so I was so excited when Jen came to us with this GED program, and she was like, girl, this is what I want to do. And to trust us with that vision and to be able to fund it. That's incredible.
Yeah. And Redemption's open to responding to like things that become apparent that are needs or that would be really helpful. They don't just stick to a certain, set of things to contribute. They're open to like doing many different things. As Anton's, they've stepped in and done stuff with Anton's veteran organization. And
and at the foundation, we have 3 main programs right now. So we have our prison support program, which provides resources to federal cannabis prisoners, which is something that Ryan was doing all the time anyways. He's like, before he started selling weed, before any of this was happening, he's been giving money to federal cannabis prisoners. So we made it a fucking program, right? And so that was, that has been incredibly difficult. Even at Sons and Daughters, we've been doing it for 6.5, 7 years. And it has been so fucking hard with COVID. It used to be a lot easier, believe it or not, for people to communicate with their loved ones, and now it's just harder and more expensive and harder to regulate. So that's one of my favorite programs. Of course, our expungement program, 780 something expungements since 19 months ago. We're really proud of that. We have 100% success rate. We've never lost a case. This is available at all 50 states. You can go to the redemptionfoundation.org/ expungement and apply there. And then, of course, our GED program, which is phenomenal. And we just kicked it off, and we'll do it every semester. And so if you don't get in this semester, you can get in spring. If you don't get in spring, let's do it in the fall. This is something that we'll run regularly. And because people, and it just a reminder that all of the money at the foundation comes from either people that are directly donating it or people that are purchasing the product itself. And Jen, you work at Quest, don't you?
Yeah. My day job for fun is working at Quest in Whitmore Lake. Yeah.
Which is a retail.
It's a adult use dispensary. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're rec right now. Yep. And they saw Redemption there. I'm a huge Redemption fan. As soon as I had heard Ryan's story, he came to Quest and told us in the beginning, what Redemption's about and stuff. And his story resonated me. I grew up, my parents being rated for cannabis. I mean, I was taught at 11 years old what cannabis was, what it stands for, and what it can do. Think of that, 1991. So I grew up like that and experienced raids in my adulthood and the choppers and all that. That's me too, Josie. I just wasn't, my name wasn't on any deeds or anything. So, I was exposed to the raids, but I never got charged growing up with them per se. But his story resonated with me. Huge Redemption fan. I always try to point out to people, there's definitely a demographic too when I'm speaking to people, talking about cannabis brands and what would they like for their cannabis, how they're consuming. And I can kind of pick them, the people that age group that cares about an expungement, because I can identify that it's people my age and older. Those are the people that are my daughter that's 22, she doesn't know about all this shit we have been through, the raids and the fear and how important it is. So a lot of times that is a good point when I tell people, hey, Redemption Cannabis, a portion of the proceeds go to expunging cannabis charges. And I've even met some people that are really? Here in Michigan? For real? Or people that will buy that Redemption brand solely because it's good. It's not a hard sell, for one. It's an easy sell. And two, I mean, there are the people that give a shit and want to give their money to Redemption. And I, like Anton said earlier, I think it was Anton, we need more companies like this so bad. It should be everybody's, it should be their goal. Or am I just so, just how the way I grew up, maybe it just stuck with me and I'm just super passionate about this. I don't know, but I just think everybody should have, and it should be a thing you have to give back, right? You don't get to play.
There's some obligation, but it's
here.
Yeah. And I mean, let's face it, you're not talking about a legislatively required obligation or some kind of a necessary for licensure type of a thing. Just a sense of moral obligation, first of all, to return back to those people who paved the way to be able for those folks to participate in the game today. But also just to help erase the evils of the war on drugs. When we talk about cannabis crimes, I mean, they did horrible things in the rural areas, some of the stuff that they put people through and some of these kangaroo courts that exist in tiny towns across Michigan where the outcome is already guaranteed by the judge and the prosecutor before the defender even gets a chance to open his mouth. So it's just been so many opportunities for the system to screw us over in the past. We have to rectify that by erasing them, as many as we can get our hands on. Right, Jose?
Yeah. And when we're talking about the raids, I think just the raids alone are serious trauma. I met Ashley Duvall at the Capitol steps, and she had a fucking clipboard and a microphone. And she was just screaming, my dad's in prison for cannabis. Please sign my petition. And I was like, I love that bitch. And I met her and we launched Sons and Daughters together. Me and Ashley, Josh Covert, Robin Schneider, we launched it. And the idea that we're children of cannabis consumers. And hey, you can't just continue to arrest our parents. They deserve access to make medical choices, however that might be. And we've really evolved a lot at Sons and Daughters United since then, right? But when we got started, and the whole idea was to help Ashley get money to talk to her dad, to see her dad, to go visit her dad, right? And so we did that a couple of times, and it just spread like wildfire, right? People were, this is something that people really need. It affects millions of people nationwide, and we were offering this service to anywhere. We're like, if there's an incarceration facility that has JPay, that has the way for us to pay for it, let's do it. These are direct payments. They go directly to the loved ones. Okay. I got tagged in a Facebook post. This woman had been raided. They had taken the cars, froze the accounts. Her husband was incarcerated. Her daughter, thank God, was at her mom's house, so wasn't there for the raid. But she didn't have a car seat. She didn't have shit. She couldn't go anywhere and buy anything. And the family dog had been shot. He was 15. He was like 15 fucking years old, was shot. It was a big giant pit bull. That's fair. Okay, whatever. But is it really been shot right there in their front porch? So I went down, and I used to do this thing. I don't know who all is watching this and remembers. I am smoking some good shit. Eh? I don't know who's watching this and remembers when there was 150 fucking dispensaries in Lansing, and people would drive out there and spend forever there. But I lived in Lansing during that time, so I would drive down Cedar, and just like go to all the dispensaries until I had enough money to do whatever I wanted to do. I went into the Cushion, and I was like crying, and I was a hot mess. And Greg, who now owns Stone Depot, who sponsors the show, said, "What do you need?" And I said, $500. And he said, "Here you go." And he gave me $500 in like fucking $1 bills. But I left there. I drove straight. I love him so much. He is the first guy also to ever give me a real donation, to give me $1,000. This is the first time I'd ever gotten money from anybody that I didn't have to beg for, that wasn't $100 fucking dollars, that didn't know who the fuck I was. And I sobbed in there like, oh, and I was like, "Do you want to take a picture?" He's like, "No, go to Detroit, bitch. Like, what are you doing?" So I left. I went to Detroit. I get there, and here's this woman who I have never fucking met, on her hands and knees, cleaning the blood of her family fucking dog off the front porch before her daughter gets there, because she doesn't want her to fucking see it. And I know that we all know this personally, but at the time I was not in my wheelchair, I was on crutches, so I didn't know what the fuck to do, because I didn't have any training for this. So I just got down on my hands and knees, and we cleaned that blood together. And I remember it so vividly, like the smell, the way the fear is. I remember giving her $500 and her sobbing like I did her a fucking favor. Like there was anything about this that was like fucking cool at all. And I just, I will say this too. They came in to do a raid on this house. It ended up being a very big deal. They ended up suing. They had entered the wrong house. And they had shot the dog. They had taken a bunch of money. They had found a bunch of drugs anyways. And so they were like, "Sorry, we entered the wrong house, but also fuck you and your drug money." Right. So, this turned out to be a fight for money that she had that was not his, if he's accused of being the drug leader or whatever, but also property that was hers before the relationship, right? Her daughter and children that they shared together were put into question. She had to sign over custody. We bought, all new.
You hit the mute, Josie.
You're muted.
Damn. We had bought all new car seats and things that they needed because the cars had been towed, and they couldn't afford to get it the fuck out. So then I was like, shit, what do I do now? So I went down Cedar, because I only know about Lansing, right? I haven't been all the way down. I went up and down. I got $1,300 fucking dollars to help them get the car out, right? That's like the first step. And also at the time, because Sharmy hadn't went up and that we were just really shitty with asset forfeiture. They could take whatever the fuck they wanted, and they didn't have to write it down. You didn't even have to be charged with a fucking crime, and they just take whatever. And remember that here in constitutionally, that we have a right to trial without like humiliation, or we have a right to, for example, gun rights, but those things are not extended to drug users. And I think that we get caught up on Jazz Cabbage, and I think in a lot of places we get caught up talking about cannabis, and all of that is true. But at the root of it, people who use drugs as a whole are treated as second-class citizens, and they're not protected. And without good quality drug policy, we would have no legalization. Actually, unless white guys could have made money off of it, we would have no legalization, right? That's the holdup right now with federal legalization, is they're making so much money on 280E, like sucking 70% of what everybody's making legally, that how are they going to replace that? But do you think...
And the new composition of the federal legislature isn't very good for moving anything sensible through, so we're probably not in good shape for a while.
Do you think, and this is also true about Biden's thing where he was like, hey, we fucked up about marijuana or whatever he said, and it was an encouragement for states to expunge marijuana crimes on their own.
And deschedule it, yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Right. We tried to deschedule marijuana forever, right? Since I think the real most popular campaigns might have started in the 70s, the ones that maybe won some traction. Probably before that, they had started and maybe, felt a little bit more. But decriminalization, what I meant by decriminalization didn't work until there was a way for people to make money off of it, right? Is that true? Do you agree with that?
California, there really was no system at all at that point for people to generate, although there was hope that people would be able to. But I think what you're looking at, the people that were driving those movements were not people that had commercial aspirations. Look here in Michigan, most of the people that were involved, they didn't have commercial aspirations, even if they ended up in the industry later. But the money never flowed. The money never flowed until there was a clear path for them to make money. Even in the drafting of the 2018 Michigan legalization bill, there were forces that wanted to do certain carve-outs in order to make sure that this program would benefit them exclusively. There's a suggestion about a tax collection system which would tax cultivators, and that tax would be picked up by people who would also deliver cannabis, and that only people who had already applied for and been approved for federal tax collection status would be allowed to do that particular job, and that just meant the tobacco people. So
who have delivered tobacco and had like some huge amount of money and resources available, or it was ridiculous. Yeah,
we stopped that. Jamie and Matt Abel and Jeff Hank and Robin Snyder and the rest of them kind of stopped those particular people from doing that. But that was not the only time that people tried to twist that bill around in order to make money on it. But I think if you look at the people who really worked hard, they weren't really, trying to get into the industry. They just wanted social justice and wanted to be able to freely smoke weed.
But we did that, right? We did that with My Legalize, and we really needed people that wanted to make money to make it work, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why the commercial.
We tried so hard. Like, if effort counts for anything, we put in way more effort than they did.
Yeah. We tried to get people to change their mind based on social justice reasons, and they wouldn't do it. Tried to get people to change their mind based on sick children and single moms with babies that needed help, and they wouldn't change their mind. But then you dangle a dollar in front of their face, and all of a sudden they come to Jesus, baby.
Well, the commercial medical program, you're muted again, Josie. The commercial medical program basically got started because a few big money interests had the dollar signs in their eyes, and
MFLA of 2016, not the 2008 personal, freedom.
Right, the commercial, right.
And
Exactly.
Joe, I just want to clarify. Joe asks something here. I don't know if this is what he's getting at, but he asks, but does the jail take the money for fines and costs? Because I've heard of that happening. Now, I don't know if he's talking about the actual civil asset forfeiture, but having been involved with civil asset forfeiture, I always thought it was a crock of bullshit the way it goes. It completely needs to be overhauled. And a lot of times, the assets themselves, like I know the feds, they roll up on someone that's got a nice Beamer. Well, they're taking that BMW and they just convert it to property, and then they'll drive it around, use it for undercover ops or whatever. But oftentimes anything over $500 is fair game. They can take that. And people don't realize you can actually indict objects. Like you can indict guns and cars and things like that to make sure they never get it back. It's a
civil asset forfeiture. That's what it's about. You have to prove the innocence of the object.
It's a very, very, it's something that needs to be overhauled. It's not fair, especially with cash and things of that nature. I mean, it really is. I never agreed with it, and a lot of times there's an actually incentive for for local police departments to work with federal agencies, because there's a federal loophole that all the money that the Fed sees, if they're working with local agencies, the local agencies can get a taste of that as well. So that creates incentive for the local cops, that pays for overtime, that pays for new gear, that pays for all the goodies. It really is. It is a for-profit business.
People in Michigan just keeping a lot of shit, just deciding that, you know, they could just have it.
Or, I mean, I've seen property that has been taken from people for years, and then the trial goes, and a lot of times they can hold on to it until after all the appeals have been exhausted. And then often they just throw the shit in the garbage sometimes. So, I mean, really, it's something that needs to be drastically looked at and addressed soon, hopefully.
Can we talk about Charmy's Dildos for Justice campaign?
Justice. I still have my shirt.
That is the most liked photo on all of our Instagrams since the beginning of time, is Jamie wearing his Dildos for Justice shirt. And it's the eye is a dildo itself, which is very creative, by the way.
I'm not sure if I ever got that.
Do you have it still? Is it like something you wear for family photos or something?
I haven't seen it around for a while. I don't have total control over that shit. So
the idea is that people come in, cops, not just people, cops come in, they raid these houses, they take the drugs and the money and the sex toys, and they line them up nice and neat next to the and they make a picture, and they create this whole fucking scenario that you're sex crazed, drug crazed, money crazed lunatic, right? And they do this specifically to women. They present these photos and they say, hey,
personal private items. Yeah.
This is going to be public fucking record. Good luck being a Sunday school teacher, Susan. And she says, oh no, don't do that. And she takes a fucking plea deal that she doesn't deserve. Or she says, fuck you and fuck that, make it public record, and there it becomes. And she spends the entire time defending herself as a person rather than a drug dealer. Remember that you're not allowed to...
That echo's happening again, Joe. Sorry. You had it down for a while.
That's me yelling, I think. I think that's the problem, consistently.
I like the passion. Keep it under control.
So Charmy had gotten so mad about it that she had created a campaign to send dildos to the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. The problem was the Washington Post picked it up as a story, and they got hundreds of dildos. So many dildos that they sent a cease and desist letters that was like, excuse me, please stop sending us dildos. And she was like, well, I thought you liked dildos so much, we might as well send you some more. And it really opened up a topic. It's funny, it's great, it's relatable, but unfortunately it's true.
No, it's so sad. I've seen it so many times, especially as a female. I honestly don't know one female raid survivor that the cops did not publicly display, tinker with, or call out a female on the sex toys. Like, I don't know one survivor, and I know a lot of people that have been raided, and I don't know one where they didn't do that. Isn't it? It's weird. I think it's so odd. Like, it's one. Yeah, it is, and it's so embarrassing and shameful. It shouldn't be.
Freaky. Yeah, that's right. The very specific case came out of St. Clair County over in Port Huron area, where
Jen.
Jen. She was raided, and they did exactly that. They went so far as to hang underwear from the ceiling fan and very humiliating things like that.
They put some shit in their oven or something like that too.
They did some terrible stuff. Camoran was her lawyer at the time. We did some publicity, and all of a sudden got picked up by the wires, and she ended up on NBC News doing an interview talking about this particular thing. And that's all a public record. You can research any of this. So none of what Josie's talking about or what Jen's talking about, none of that's just speculation. It's all real. It's fact. From our history.
I love that Charmy did that. I didn't know that, you guys. I didn't know. Like, I had heard, Charmy and her stop the raids and asset forfeiture, but I didn't know she started that campaign. What year was that?
Say 2012, maybe?
I think 13, but yeah, right in that zone.
I love that tactic. I love that. See, that's one example of why I fucking love Charmy so much. She's like My big soul, my soul sister. That's funny.
That's the most liked photo we have on Sons and Daughters Instagram page. What a model for it too.
I know. Look at that.
That's a good one.
There we go.
I love that.
That particular picture was at High Times many moons ago, many years ago.
Probably in the first time that High Times came to Auto City Speedway, which was 14. I bet you that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a year, at least a year after that campaign had been launched. Yeah.
The case we're talking about, she also testified. She gave testimony during some of the committee hearings about civil asset forfeiture and stuff like that, and mentioned very, clearly about her disdain for the fact that they took her dildo. Didn't understand why they had to take her dildo. So she wasn't one of the ones that was intimidated by it and helped to expose this practice. So
they're only supposed to take things that are like bought with drug money or used to either secure drug money or drug paraphernalia, right? So the argument was, what did I spend my $36 fucking dildo came from like drug money? Are you serious? Like, what the fuck? But what gets even more fucked up is when it's like family houses and stuff that people inherited and they lose that. It's like, wait a minute, what kind of sense does that make? Right? And that was what happened with the DeVals. And that was in the middle of their family property. And they lost it to Pipeline. The Pipeline ended up buying it. They made millions of dollars off of that.
So I want to just interject the DeVals. We have talked about them on the show before, but we also talked about how Ryan was following state law. He was actually prosecuted federally, had to go to federal prison for a while. Ashley's brother and father were imprisoned over cannabis that was Michigan Medical Marijuana Act behavior. And they had these multi-jurisdictional task forces talking about the raids and stuff. This was common. Or there's like locals and sheriffs and federal agents all, and sometimes the participants, like the sheriffs, are also like, temporary federal agents under circumstances when they're in these multi-jurisdictional, raids and stuff like that. So a guy showed up, sheriff, and helps them to arrange their greenhouse and tells them this is compliant with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Then he comes back later as a federal agent as part of one of these task forces and then busts them for it. And he just got out, as we talked about on the show too. He's just very recently got out of federal prison.
He being Jerry Duvall, right?
Jerry Duvall. His son got out a little while before.
Jeremy,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jamie and I traveled to West Virginia to,
Ohio,
Lower Ohio. Yep, Cincy, which is across the river from West Virginia. But to attend one of the hearings for the Duvall case,
for the federal appeals hearings. Yeah, it was about this. The guy Glick was his name, the sheriff's name that did that. And they tried to use that. The federal attorneys, tried to use that.
Boy, they were so good. They're so sharp.
Yeah, they did a great job, but we just got as many
cannabis back against you in federal court. Yeah. It really is. And Jerry suffered greatly as a transplant patient. You are required to have a certain regimen of medicines, and you don't get that. You don't get that in jail, and he suffered greatly for that.
They even punished him. He was in, being long-term incarcerated is hard for people psychologically. So he ended up being in isolation, and they punished him by not allowing him to have his heart medicine, allegedly.
He was at a medical prison, or what they would consider, a medical-based prison.
And because it was a medical-based prison, it was a higher security prison than what his son was in. Because you guys went and visited Ryan, right? Because Jeremy and Ryan were in the same. It was like surrounded by a fence. It was a lot different than the one that Jerry was incarcerated at. Both of them obviously are traumatizing and awful. But Jerry, because, and this is something that isn't talked about a lot, people with disabilities are unfairly treated in prison, probably in every state of their well-being, right? But specifically in prisons where, even if I was committing a small crime, like a common crime that able-bodied people might do, I don't know what it might be, I would be put in a high-security prison because those are the only prisons that are equipped to handle medical issues, right? And so I would be put in the same place if let's say I was let's say I was in Oklahoma smoking weed, because if I'm in Oklahoma's, I guess, good. Let's say I'm in Nebraska smoking weed, because if I'm in fucking Nebraska, I'm smoking weed, right? And I go to jail there, where do I get sent other than to a high security prison that can take care of my medical needs, right? Even though so I'm there with rapists and murderers and like very bad people. And I wouldn't have been there if I wasn't, in the wheelchair or whatever. And that's what happened to Jerry.
That's weird. And of course, I mean, it's not that surprising. There's all these illogical things that just get created out of that bureaucracy or whatever, the system is. So it's not that surprising, but it is frustrating to hear about another example of that and how badly it compromises people.
And again, what we're talking about is state legal cannabis activity that was taken to a federal prosecution because local prosecutors couldn't make a case against the people because they were compliant with the state law. Once you go to federal court, then they don't care about medical marijuana.
Shit.
Law makes no difference. You're just as guilty as someone from some drug kingpin. Yeah. Your last name was Escobar. So, and especially with Mr. Basor's case, with Ryan's case, they tagged him as the ringleader of the operation. Multiple people went to prison.
Oh, there's several hundreds of plants and all this other kind of stuff. Those were individual caregiver gardens, and all those numbers were combined.
If this guy's got 72 plants, he's compliant. If this guy's got 72 plants, he's compliant. If this guy's got 72 plants, he's compliant. But if you aggregate them together, they're 216 plants, and that's a big federal trigger. Yeah. So they would make a case federally that they were all linked together, and even though they were individual grows, they were all under the same control, which naturally is not true when you have a caregiver operation. So
yeah, it's been a really frustrating.
This happened all over up until the Cole memo, and for a couple of months after that.
Well, I mean, Ryan's was after there was federal policy to leave states alone.
And there's never been official policy, right? The Cole memo is just like, hey, here's what I think, right?
Not official law. It's just like, here's how we're going to handle this, right? Yeah.
And so even fucking Biden shit is not official policy. It's still not. Here we are in 2023 where it's pretty common that people support legalization. And a lot of us live in a world where we believe that everyone supports and smokes weed. Like, my mom is convinced that everyone she meets smokes hella weed in private and in public and all over the place. Because that's the world we live in.
She assumes that first and then
smoke first today.
Or not, yes.
But that's not true for a lot of other states.
Yep, and you're right that announcing some kind of pardons for past crimes and offenses is a nice step forward. Having a president mention the word marijuana for the first time is a nice step forward. But it was a half step when the society demands a full stride, and we really need
law, but it was just for the research, and that's kind of like some of that's too little, too late. There was a directive to DOJ, but that's kind of a slow roll with working out, quote their comment flexibilities with the Department of Health. What does that mean? That was right before the elections. That was kind of probably more of the motivator there. The pardons, nice gesture, an incremental gain, not that substantive ultimately. So we're dealing with those little baby steps.
We mentioned before on the show, I was guest host on Green Rush Live, Pro Cannabis Media Network, and Morgan Fox, who is the national coordinator in Washington, D.C. for NORML. Now he used to be with the National Cannabis Industry Association and MPP. He said now that we've got Kevin McCarthy potentially coming in as Speaker of the House, he said there'll be no talk about descheduling. There'll be no positive cannabis bills that really get out of there. He and Jim Jordan, representative from Ohio, really hate this issue, and they don't believe that their base supports any cannabis law reform issues. And it's we're kind of going to be stuck for 2 years, unfortunately.
That's kind of what we meant earlier in the show when we said that the composition of the federal legislature doesn't say it's going to. But you bring up an interesting thing. They're talking about this today, and there were votes being made on Speaker of the House today. I don't know if there was an outcome. I know there was votes and it didn't result in getting a Speaker of the House. And so there was going to be subsequent votes. I know that McCarthy gave some shit to Gates And I know that Gates nominated Jordan. all types of weird stuff took place today there. I don't know if there's an outcome, if there's a Speaker of the House in place or not. Since you bring that up, I know that's ongoing. Maybe there's some resolution to that by now. I don't know.
And, it's an American phenomenon that we're going through, but it's not just an American phenomenon. I listened to an interview with someone who went to the European Summit for a peace or an economy or something like that. And he said, I want to make promises from the American government. And the European guy said, for how long? He says, in 4 years, you're going to have some new guy in there like we just had. And all your policy promises are useless. I'm looking for something I can count on for 20, 30 years. And the American politics is just so volatile. You can't count on any promises made by any single administration. So this really is a problem. This instability that we have here, it's not just a cannabis law reform issue. It's a global thing.
Yeah. Becky's saying that they've had 3 votes and they need to vote again. So that's where they are. We're trying to figure out Speaker of the House.
There's no unity whatsoever in the party at all if they're going to 3 votes, man. Jeez.
Well, yeah, obviously it whatever. It's a political thing. People have different views on that, but there's some changes within the party itself that it's going through right now, and it's manifesting itself in this vote for Speaker of the House. Hopefully that gets resolved.
Are you saying that even the banking bill probably still 2 years on it, right?
That's an interesting thing because we didn't specifically talk about safe banking with Morgan and
or the 280
would get through. That might be something that could do.
Because
that might be something that gets through because there's a lot of Republicans, a lot of conservatives that are making money in the cannabis industry that would support that.
And 280E too.
Yes, you did a show there about us. I think it was Curaleaf who had owed like $140 million in taxes, right? Which is a lot of money. And they had $120 million in their bank account. And $1 million is a lot of money, but $20 million in a deficit between how much you owe the government and how much you have in your pocket is a big deal. And so
correctly, the top 12 cannabis companies owe about $500 million in back taxes to the United States government, Joe's. I think that's what it was, yeah.
500 mil.
And this does sound terrible, but also they don't deserve all the fucking money that they're getting, right? That's bullshit. So just for everyone that doesn't know, you don't get to deduct anything. So like if let's say I make $1 million this year, I have 10 employees that I pay $50,000, including myself, right? It's $500,000 off the top. And I pay $100,000 for my rent, my electricity, my cars, my overall operation. It's $600,000. I'm paying taxes on the $1 million that came in, period, right? The salaries doesn't come out or
write off expenses when it's connected to
none of
cannabis.
the expenses. Yeah. So I'm put at a 35% tax bracket from there. And so it's like, I don't know, $650,000 after taxes. And then, from there I spent $600,000 on just staff, salary, and operations. If you're breaking even, you are a success, That's the way it is. But what people see is the numbers that come in on the Laura reports. The people this is a multi-million-dollar industry. So people are dumping millions of dollars into it.
$3 billion in Michigan. But
they're investing, but it's not creating real revenue. And so the idea, I think the game, and I don't have a shop, so I don't know, but the game is to stay in as long as you can to be able to have a prominent brand in order for 280E, when 280E goes out, then you can have a fucking absolute functioning real life generational wealth building business, right? But who's going to make it there? Who can afford to lose money for that long? And I bet that everybody in Colorado 10 fucking years ago thought that spanking bill was going to go through. They thought, no way, not 2 more years. There's no way, right?
There was a particular Congress, I forgot how many years ago now, it might be like 8 or 6 or something like that, or just time is difficult, I guess, in some of these accounts, but that Congress was going to deschedule. There were people that actually were thinking, okay, this is going to happen now.
We all thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It made sense. It still makes sense. But you know what? How else will they get so much unearned, unfucking necessary tax money from them, right? And I was like, y'all should just buy congressmen and put them on your payroll so they they get paid still, you know. But the truth is that they're getting billions, literally billions of dollars that they would not be getting if 280E did not exist. And the problem with that is, just like cannabis, they can only, just like the market itself, you can only do that for so long before they shut and they're closed.
It's worth it not to have that policy in order to generate all the tax income from the industry that could be running healthily instead of being bogged down by this policy.
Especially in a world where we make more tax revenue from people that make more money. So don't you think we would get a better salary if it could be written off? And I think that means so much for people that contribute to social equity and that pay so much into the community, because they get no tax deductions for that shit. Literally none. So for example, Jen, who works with cannabis, it's hard when she's contributed to this. It's out of her own pocket, you know, and it's not something that is when people in the cannabis industry go out to dinner, that is not a write-off. If you're writing this stuff off, that's great. If you get audited, good fucking luck, you know. This has been, and cannabis companies are like grossly more likely to be audited. I don't know what the number is, but I met this guy at the MICIA conference, and he gave me this astronomical number, and I was like, "There's no fucking way that's true." And he was like, "Yes, it is. Here's proof." And I was like, "Oh my god!" But it's not fair how cannabis companies are treated, because again, cannabis companies and drug users as a whole, people who consume or enjoy or at least tolerate cannabis or drug use, and are treated differently in the United States of America, and they've always been, you know. And we see that in federal policy more than anything. But make no mistake, it is here in Michigan. It is rooted in Michigan's policy. All standard drug crime, first-time offenses, you can be jailed for 20 years. And when you go and you ask the legislators, you're like, hey, can we make first-time meth offenses, I don't know, a year? Maybe, like, get them a fucking treatment? They say, no
health issue,
for 20 years,
a criminal issue.
And I'm like, well, if they're not going to jail for 20 years, why not make it shorter, you know? But imagine struggling with addiction or struggling with something, or just being falsely accused of this. Remember, the cops are literally almost never fucking right. And if you're in a rural area or in an urban area, I can guarantee that you've seen some shit, either you, your friends, and you know that's not how it went down with the way that it's been promoted to the judge, to the jury, from the prosecutor. Imagine being in that spot. So always advocate for, you know, the ability to make choices as an adult, whether that be entheogens or cannabis as a whole. Remember that people spend their entire livelihoods in jail for things that I think a lot of us are doing, right? And people are still in jail right now for cannabis here in Michigan. And
you've seen all these states, like X amount of thousands of people, you know, freed by governor, freed by, you know, all this kind of stuff. And we don't have something like that here. I didn't have that during the first term. I hope there's a step up in that activity.
Is there a way to do that?
It seems like it, but I'm not an expert on that stuff. I mean, so it seems like she could identify if there was a push. It would be very helpful if she wanted it done. I mean, I don't think
what is helpful is Biden saying, "Hey, fucking do this," right?
Having some states feel a little bit better about it, because oftentimes the concern that you hear is like, oh, but it's still illegal federally, so we don't want to jeopardize our connection to whatever grants or whatever.
People in Michigan felt like they'd already done that before Biden, you know, asked other states to match him, you know, in issuing pardons. I don't believe they felt any motive to do anything different. They felt they'd already accomplished that.
Well, the ability to get some stuff expunged,
but certainly the program's poor. We talked about the need. Josie, I don't think we've heard the number $1,300 on this show yet. We really should talk about that. That's about how much it costs in order to have lawyers work on a case and take an expungement from start to completion. And you have what, 780 of those motherfuckers, Joes?
Yeah, 792. We counted them all up because it's the end of the year. I'm writing a letter, so if you've looked at me in the last fucking year and a half, I'm sending you a card. So first and foremost, I don't know if you guys believe this, but prison isn't rehabilitating fucking anybody. Nobody goes to jail one time. They're not like, oh, thanks for suspending my license and making me go drug test 5 days a week. I'll totally be able to do that without getting caught and getting another charge, right? So the system isn't created for people to only enter it once. And for whatever purpose that is, we'll debate later. So most people have more than one charge. And so we're paying $500 for each charge. People have 2.8, which is not a real number, but that's just what it comes out to. Charges on we're spending an average of $13.50 per client. And when we are getting 5 to 7 applications a day and taking about 64% of those, again, I just wrote a letter, so I have all the statistics. We are losing our ass. We are losing our ass. And here's the thing. I didn't jail these people. Right? It's not my fucking fault and I didn't create the policy to do so, nor did I vote for a lot of the folks that did. But the state has a certain obligation. They've been promoting these expungement programs as something that is easy to do and complete on your own. And I will tell you that we have 8 different law firms, all incredibly experienced and top notch in their field, that are offering us 75% rate discounted rates that do this consistently for a living. We filed 792 applications for expungement, and we know what we're doing. We have a 100% success rate. And still, we struggle in places. And I think that something that was interesting for me is I thought we would struggle in places that were like cowboy cops that want to do their own shit and know what, this is the way we do it in our town. But really, it's Wayne County and it's Oakland County, places that literally hold 30% of our entire population here in Michigan, that have issues following the rules, right? And so because of the sheer volume of people that we are filing at one time, we're able to change the communication and really lead the way. And we made a complaint against 52.2, and basically what they were doing was requiring fingerprints for misdemeanor marijuana expungements, and that's against the policy, right? And so you could administratively take things in different ways, but you cannot add additional barriers that would otherwise. Okay, so we made this complaint, and it took about 6 months to get it back, and they were pretty much like, oh yeah, you were right, fuck you, 52.2. And
that's District Court 52.2, by the way, for those people who don't understand.
So,
she's suing the court to get them to straighten their ass.
No, it wasn't a suit, but it was a complaint that was saying, hey, this is creating unnecessary and unjust barriers, and it's difficult for people to expunge their records. And that, look, Missy's here. And so, it's necessary for us to have that conversation, which is when we're we're talking about Glenn and how much it costs here, we are also changing the way that people who don't communicate with us, who don't know who the fuck we are, who don't go through our program, are able to file, and making it easier for people that are your neighbors, your Sunday school teachers, your college professors, your favorite gas station attendant. Those are the people that are being helped most by Glenn, people that don't even know it, right? And I will say, we threw a party in December, and Jen was there, and I kept getting complimented on, like, there was a lot of weed going on, and I kept saying, oh, tell my boss, and they're like, you have a boss? And I kept talking to people and, like, introducing myself to them, and they're like, Josie, you did my expungement. Josie, you literally did my fucking expungement. And I had no idea, because I guess the algorithm gives people, like, links to the stuff. But we've done so many. God, we've had so many really great clients, and we've been able to do things like help them get their record expunged, and now we'll be able to go a step further and get them their GED. And this is, real reentry stuff. This is top-notch reentry program.
So when the GED program is made available to people, does that come with some of the information that we talk about here about why it's so beneficial if they choose to do this, or have people already made that decision when they decide to take advantage of this opportunity that you're offering?
Jen, you would say that the GED is real fucking work, right?
Oh, yeah, it's hard. It's hard work.
So somebody might not want to do it just because they may be intimidated, but and might require some perspective. Like, hey, if you do this though, all these, and you can do it. It might be, you're going to have to work a little bit,
right? Yeah,
but they're not going to do it if they're not serious. Like the GED is not like, hey, I have to get my high school diploma. It's the right thing to do, right? It is. I need this. I need to do something specific, whether that be a job, whether that be a promotion, whether that be, hey, I want to chaperone this field trip or whatever, whatever it is that these people want to do. It takes prayer and utter dedication, and you can learn a lot of things, but you can't learn discipline, right? The ability to go when things are fucking hard. And at this point, a lot of people have school, they have kids, they have marriages, they have mortgages, they have dogs, and the ability to go to school and I wouldn't be able to do it. No fucking way. So nobody is entering the GED program that isn't already serious about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Motivation. And I just want to add a few points real quick since we're at this timeline in the show. It's a 12-week course. It is through Washtenaw Community College. This has a lot of support. We're not just throwing somebody who's been through hell and being like, here you go take your GED. Like this program at Washtenaw, let's see, 12 weeks, 9 hours per week. And it's really accommodating. The classes are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, day class or night class, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, day or night. And it's also in person or online for day and night. So think about how easy we're setting them up for success. If you work during the day, cool. If your baby's home during the day and your spouse gets home at night, cool, we got you. You have a car, you want to feel like you're really going to school and show up on a daily basis because that's good for your soul, we've got you. Like Josie mentioned, there's a student success coach. So they help you at WCC go over what are your barriers. They try to help you with your barriers. There's a career navigation coach too. So maybe there's some people that are like, even in 2008, like me, I wasn't super sure that I wanted cosmetology for sure. So I wasn't sure, but I did some tests, and I think like the things I was good at were like, I don't know, being a director of nonprofits and cosmetology or a public speaker or something is how I scored. So this program is there's the instructors too. It's instructor led. So whether you're in person or online, there is a real teacher communicating with you and teaching you what you need to know to pass this class. Like here, we're professionals. This is our job. And also I have to give a shout out really big time to my mom, Terry, because my mom is a teacher of this program, and I wouldn't know about this program if it wasn't for her. My mom is the one who's like, Jen, you're always doing things. Do you know this exists? And, I chewed it around. It's just such a good program that I know as long as they have that motivation and that determination, they will pass the course. Now, we can't guarantee it because, it's on them, of course, but I just know who I was and what I needed. This program is so kick-ass. This is going to change lives. So just so people know those like details, like tell your friends, super enthusiastic like Josie is. It's for families too. So, if I was incarcerated for cannabis, I take so much comfort knowing that if I had a 19 or 20-some-year-old child, they could go get their GED. Like my poor decisions aren't going to directly affect my kid everywhere, damn it. So I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. There's so many dynamics. And like Josie said, it's all about like giving them that next chance in life and continuing support to keep them going. If I just cannot wait until we send our first student through. You guys, I'm going to cry. I'm literally whoever this very
We'd like
first.
to talk to the first couple people here and, talk about.
I can't wait to hug them if they're into hugs. And I hope that I don't cry too hard because I know what it's going to do for them. I am so lucky, Josie. I'm so lucky for you and the Redemption Foundation and people like all you guys, we're doing it. We are the examples of what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Seriously.
That's really cool. And I assume that not only support with content of the test, but conditions of the test, what it looks like, what to expect,
Yep.
time frames, preparing for all that kind of stuff. So really,
Yep.
really set you up to be successful.
And even if
Tutor-
you're not successful and you went to the classes and you didn't pass the test, you can do it again next semester.
Yeah, that's just one time. You could
It's not a one and done situation.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the sponsorship of the because when Josie and I were talking, we're like, okay, what is everything they would need to be successful? And we identified the laptops. That it's going to be a barrier for an online student. And I'm guessing the people we're going to help are going to be all over Michigan, so they can't all make it to the Washtenaw community campus. So having a laptop, that's such a great barrier. Let's get it out of the way. Josie's like, fuck yeah, consider it done, Jen. I'm like, oh shit. And those T85, my mom would shame me that I don't even know what the hell it's called. Calculator, those, they're not cheap.
Texas
Yeah.
Instruments, the scientific calculators, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you need that for that test. I mean, that test was hard, you guys. You had to write a paper. Okay, so it's still like this. There's an English portion and you have to write a paper. And I was like, shit, I brainstormed it. I knew it was coming. I was originally, and you don't know what the subject is until you get there though, you guys. Like until you show up to the testing facility, you don't know what you have to write about. It's told to you right then and there. So you're like, oh no. So it said, write about something in your life that you didn't like that you now currently like. And I was going to be honest and be like, well, it's true, sushi. But I realized right there when I started writing, oh my God, I don't know shit about sushi because I don't really like it. I just had it for the first time a couple months ago. So I wrote, I just came, you only have minutes. You know that you only get like, I think 4 hours or 3 hours to do this, each section, math, writing, reading. So I made it up on the fly. I was like, okay, fuck it, pizza. I'm just going to pretend like I didn't used to like pizza because I didn't have enough content. So I was like, I know enough about pizza. I can wing this. I knew it was going to be graded on grammar and paragraph structure and punctuation and things like that. But, I freaked out at the testing facility. And then the math, that's some stuff. I mean, I can't even remember. And I do have a math disability. I have an actual math disability. So it's funny with my mom being a math teacher, how some of us just don't get the math. But luckily, my mom studied with me. I had the success coach at Michigan Works. That test is so intimidating. And I chose to sponsor, besides what Modrutz is going to do. Modrutz is going to help this campaign and this program. But I chose just to pick a few people that weren't involved with cannabis. I just threw it out on my social media and was like, listen, Jen, out of her own pocket, is going to cover. And originally it was 2, you guys. And then so many people reached out to me. I was like, shit. So I quickly edited my post and I was like, okay, I talked to my husband and I'm like, okay, babe, can we do 3? And he was like, well, I mean, he's like, if you can't say no, you can't say no. And I was like, no, I can't say no. So the need is out there. And I mean, it's just everyday people. The outreach to me ranged from a 19-year-old girl who regrets dropping out of high school, motivated, to a guy that's currently enrolled in or wants to enroll into a plumbing apprenticeship. He can't join it without this GED and he's just been putting it off. And another gal who tried to do the GED before on her own. Okay. And she's my age. She's probably a couple years older, maybe 45. She realized, shoot, I can't do this on my own, bombed the test. And this was like 15 years ago. And once I put that offer out there, she messaged me privately and was like, hey, dude, people don't know this about me in my life. So I messaged you privately, but girl, I don't have my GED. And I was like, I got you. Don't you worry. I got you. I got all of it. Like, I just want to keep it moving. So I'm just so excited. I don't even know what the point of those 18 sentences were, but I hope a point was made.
It's all good. Yes. You're helping people out, which is really nice.
Well, really out of your own pocket, and it's possibly the expenses that you're taking out of your own pocket might be defrayed by some of the other angel donors that we sometimes dig up. One of the best things about Redemption and about Ryan is that Ryan is the doorway to an awful lot of generous people, Liskies and everybody else, and there's you can start running down the list. It's just great to work with someone who's so universally liked and who is unabashed about the way that he asks people for money when he wants them to. So, I mean, Ryan's just a huge asset to all of activism and to the charity work that the people on this call do, all four of us.
Yeah, for real.
I'm really excited about this program. I like that it goes to every, it can be done from anywhere in the state. I like that you can also do it in person. Terry is a mathematician, which is, hard for not a lot of women in math. I would say not a lot of women in STEM in general. So to come from a family of academics, and I think that's why Jen is so structured and so disciplined and so able to go through with it. And a lot of these folks don't have, a lot of my clients at the Expungement Network don't have standard family units. They have family units that they've created later in lives, and that's what's inspired them or supported them on their mission to redemption. And what a perfect name, right? Redemption covers so many things. Expungement and GED obviously are part of that. And as we continue to expand at Redemption, we'll continue to expand at the foundation, and we'll have more services. But remember, you can always apply for these services online at theredemptionfoundation.org. The GED program is just one of the many programs that we have for reentry. But I think it is our most interesting and our most revolutionary that we've done yet. I think that it reaches a specific class of people that need it the most and that are being left behind. And so the ability to promote this and to work with our community, and remember that we don't usually get a chance to do that in cannabis fields, to work with community college or to work as a team with corporate cannabis. And so I'm so excited about this. I'm proud that Jen came to us with this great idea, and that we were able to launch it into something that will run perpetually at the heart of what we do at the foundation.
Yeah, there's going to be some people, January, 17th, some people that we don't know as of yet are going to be in a GED program. As of now, I'm just so excited to even think that somebody is on that next path. Even like who you said it was your son, right, Rick?
Yeah. That's
just so, think about that. He's so proud. I know he is. I'm so excited. And then we're going to have more. And these classes, each class that I mentioned to you, day, night, online, in person, 30 people each. My mom said that enrollment has been down since COVID. Whether it's economical status, situation, motivation. So we're excited.
What was the normal cost if there wasn't through?
It normally costs like $500 to do this.
Okay.
Yeah, it normally, just to take your test.
It's a consideration for.
Yeah, just to take the test solo, it's like $285, $300 or something like that.
Right.
Yep. If you wanted to show up and take the test. Yeah, it's got a great value to it. I know that it was just such a barrier. So here in a couple weeks, someone's going to start school online. I'm so thankful. That's one good thing that came out of the pandemic, was how much stronger our online skills have gotten, right? Sometimes I'm funny with crowds, and what I'll do even before pandemic was cool. So this online, man, if that was available in 2008, yeah, if that wasn't available in 1998, maybe I would have got my GED then. Online opens up a whole nother, let's just eliminate the need for a car, gas money, babysitter, The classes, I think, are day class, I think, is 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And night class, I'm not super sure on the night time, but I believe it's 6:30 to 9:30 or 6 to 9 is the night time. So that's just it's going to be so accommodating. I cannot wait. I mean, we could be putting future politicians through these programs that are good, right? Game changers. Like we should, entrepreneurs, future CEOs, we're about to set up perfectly right here.
Or, just better breadwinners for their families too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that too.
All those outcomes are positive. All those outcomes are positive. It's January now, but it was just recently December, and we're in the last about 15, 20 minutes of the show. It would be a crime for us not to talk about all of the Christmas presents that Josie and sons and daughters gave that I personally helped wrap some, that she donated through her charity and all the work that went into that, Josie. I know you're on mute now, but can you talk about the Christmas giveaway and all the things that you did?
Yeah, so this is our 7th holiday drive. This year we teamed up with the Redemption Foundation, which took it better than ever. It was our first time raising literally fucking any money before we launched the applications. We did a telethon with Smoke and Rope, with Jazz Cabbage, with a couple other podcasts. We raised $30,000 during that telethon, and so we used that money to adopt 20 families across the state, 52 kids in total. We had a family that had a house fire that completely lost everything up in Kalkaska. We had a family with 3 kids that were between 7 and 11, and they had never had their own beds. So we bought them all their own beds and their own bed sets and 10-inch mattresses. So shout out to Elkhart Bedding for giving us a fuck of a deal on such quality items. If you are in or around the border, that is the place to go. It was incredible. They do make their own mattresses there. They also ship them out. It's a factory and family owned. They did us very well. We bought a total of 5 mattresses and 2, maybe 1 box spring, and then of course the platform beds and things like that. So we were super happy to do that. That's real things. Again, opening presents on Christmas is great, but what can we do for today and tomorrow? In the past, we've gotten washer machines, we've gotten stoves, we've built ramps, we've done Braille items, sign language video or sign language classes, things to help people not only for today, but, for tomorrow. So
that's such a cool part of this. There's a lot of great things to say about it, but to hook somebody up with what they absolutely need, but then also to make sure they have gifts for the sake of just enjoying, the holidays and getting a nice gift. That's just such a cool, conscientious approach to make for these families.
And everyone is struggling with, some of Prohibition's greatest struggles, or greatest hardships, right? So they're struggling with, they have family members that are incarcerated. And some of these folks are prominent in our community and have been for a while. So we'll take some federal cannabis prisoners. And, Michigan, unfortunately, has a great selection of federal cannabis prisoners from Michigan. And so the pickings aren't slim. A lot of them have children at home. Also, we take people that have disabilities. At the time that we launched this, 100% of legal cannabis consumers were disabled in some way. They were all medical marijuana users, right? And also, Shooty and Snyder ran through the whole state and did those
clear the smoke,
clear the air campaign or whatever.
Oh my God, that's a
and it was arresting fucking everybody. So there was also no shortage of people that were incarcerated, and so actually, it was the perfect combination. And those things are, honestly, less than what they were before. That's a fact, and that's incredible. But still, 1 in 12 Americans, children, have an incarcerated parent sometime throughout the year. And
even Sesame Street dedicated some shows to addressing the issue because it was so prevalent.
But here's the real issue: when you look at the reason that people are spending time in jail, right? most of them are for property crimes, for things like not paying tickets or for not updating their license, driving on a suspended license. Very few of them are for, violent crimes, crimes that affect other people. Maybe some of them are property crimes, kid shit, But it is not something that people should lose their ability to, have livelihood. And so that's what happens though, right? They can't get jobs, they can't go to school, they don't get their GED, they don't get FAFSA, a whole line of things. So just to circle around it at the foundation and the way that we work together at the holiday drive, we delivered over 700 and I don't know,
Man.
80 something. We delivered so many freaking gifts. It was incredible. But what was the best part of this entire thing was the partnerships we had this year. I can't even believe it. It was incredible. So we did, we worked with Scentsy this year. Shout out to fucking Jamie Cooper. What a powerhouse. We got over almost $700 from just showing up and from people just like coming in and donating that day. And we didn't have to put really, we didn't have to like fight for it or sell t-shirts for it, and people were just Jamie was giving us the ticket prices, and that's amazing. We also got over 130 gifts, and Jen herself brought a whole kitchen set, and the quality of the gifts are really what shows that this place, people were there for the charity portion. You don't bring high quality items like that and just stopping at the dollar store and decide to buy a $100 kitchen set, right? So people were contributing items that were on our list, that were specific, that were that made sense.
Very helpful to those people because they put out a list of shit that they need. So that's
Right.
Every time somebody accommodates that. Is Missy still lurking about?
She is.
I think was it 2 years ago? Missy and I went out on a shopping spree and satisfying a list from one of the candidates for the Sons and Daughters program.
I stole Missy from the ALS Association, and when I stole her from there, she had a client who had, ALS is a very difficult, very progressive, very quick
Lou Gehrig's
process. And so one of the clients who had gone through the program, it ended up being his last Christmas. And one of the gifts that Missy's the best at gift buying. One of the gifts she wanted to get was a camera so they could take pictures of their last holiday together. So we got a Polaroid. It was printed out. It's so cool. That is the reality for a lot of folks. And the holidays are just a reminder of the situation that they're in. And I know that a lot of these companies, a lot of these places have this beggars can't be choosers mentality, right? But you can't do that if you're just offering a fucking service, right? So my dad spent 20 years consecutively incarcerated in and out of prison in Terre Haute in Indiana, and he's just a brown guy that likes cocaine, but we all know how that goes. And so when he got out in 2020, he was smoking weed in Indiana and got busted for a 47 fucking years old, a first time cannabis offense, after having, a rap sheet over the record. And then he spent 30 to 60 days in jail. And when he got out, he had nothing still. He had just gotten out of prison for the first time. He had no ID, he had no way to do this. And this is a program that would support him. So I saw what I wanted to go back to is where I saw we should expand to states like this. Fuck yeah, I want to. And what I'm working on is there's a website, it's GED.com, and you can take online courses to do that. And so I've inquired about it. I'm hoping we can do something together, get some pricing going. But it seems like a very easy leap into that, right? And so we are working definitely on that. And I think that this is a program that that takes a village, just like all great policy. And so what we learned quick and fast with the expungement program is not to take on, more than we can chew. Can I talk about my snooker ball before I go?
I say yes.
Yay! Okay. So I am throwing a party at the Hotbox Social. VIP tickets will go on sale next week. They come with a gift bag with over $150 worth of all my favorite products. And it's got, live rosin or hash rosin, live resin, carts, pre-rolls, edibles, the whole shebang from a whole bunch of great Michigan brands. And space is limited, and so the sneaker ball takes place on March 18th. And again, it's at the Hotbox Social, which is in Hazel Park. Is that right?
Hazel Park on John R. Yeah.
I'm so excited. It is Michigan's only, one of two consumption lounges in Michigan, but they only do private events, and so I'm so excited to go there. It's a great venue. We're gonna have food and a live auction, and there you'll be able to buy our treasure hunt maps for Hash Bash. So go ahead and go to GreatLakesExpungementNetwork.org. And Monday you'll be able to buy tickets online for our sneaker ball, which is like, it's a black tie affair, but you wear sneakers. So shout out to Cushion Kicks. They do a podcast on Sundays, and they've teamed up with us, the Redemption Foundation and the Hotbox Social, to throw what I think is going to be the best fucking night ever. And it's St. Patty's Day weekend. I don't know if you guys are doing the math there, but it is like
Lots of green.
It's Green Saturday, I'm saying. I was lucky to get that. I said, okay. Hell yeah.
They hooked up they hooked us up with a much better than typical rate as part of their contribution to the whole thing.
Yes, incredible. Like more than 60% off.
Yeah.
I'm looking for sponsors for the event. So if you are watching and you want to sponsor it or you want to come, make sure you get a hold of me. If you're like, Josie, I have serious dank, and you really truly do, let's get it in our VIP bags.
You muted yourself. But before that, you just said if you want to give away cannabis, it has to meet your standard of being extreme.
It has to be dank, dude. I'm saying, if it's not loud enough for me to say, hey, what's that? I don't want it. So I want something that is, I also want to make sure that people, on the east side are invited. I'm from the west side, best side. And so it's not often that we throw parties out there.
That's true.
So,
yeah.
I'm excited. We'll have our Hash Bash treasure hunt, which I'm sure Jamie will come back on and talk about closer to Hash Bash. But
Winewood Organics, the standalone micro business in Ann Arbor, is joining the participants. We're looking forward to working with them.
It's going to be incredible. It's going to be even bigger this year. There's more stops. There's more deals, more gifts, better quality. Everyone's like, is the archive hash rosin coming back? And I'm like, hell yes. But where will you find it? That's the treasure hunt portion. Thank you guys for having me on today. Thank you for highlighting this program and everything we do at the Redemption Foundation and Sons of Daughters United. I'm so proud to go in to 2023 with you guys.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, Jen, anything else you want to make sure that you get in on this conversation? We still have a few minutes left, and if there's something that we need to kind of cover that we didn't add to.
Josie, what is the website for them to register again? Let's give it a shout out one more time on the Redemption.
TheRedemptionFoundation.org/GED readiness. So I always name shit like this. Also, Sons and Daughters United.org. Like, what the fuck? Great Lakes Expungement Network.org. It's like a mouthful. I'm sorry about that. But yes, it is.
Right. Yeah, that's where, anyone who wants to register, that's where you start. That's the first step in getting into this program. And honestly, if someone needs extra support, I'm always here as an individual, man. I'm looking to lift people up. So
say it again, though. /GED. I'm sorry, I want to get this out here.
/ GED readiness.
Okay, go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry. I just want to.
Just reach out to the Redemption Foundation, and if they decide, if they're curious or anything, people can reach out to me as well. I'm here for, did he get it? There we go.
Sorry.
Yep. There we go.
Also,
That's
Tui. Also help out Tui. We didn't talk about that at all, but we still want people to help out Michael Tui and his.
Yeah,
case.
we should have talked about that.
I mean, we
He
can
has
revisit
court
that
on
for a second.
Friday, I think.
He's under.
Does he really? Wow.
I mean, he could actually face. He could actually face life based on this
Habitual offender law.
Yeah, and it's just really stupid. It was some cannabis activity that's wasn't necessarily even criminal. So just really fucked up.
It is. We got to support them. I donated. I like what Sons and Daughters did to make the donations easier and safer. Thank you, Josie, for doing that.
The reason that we made a GoFundMe under force where the money went to Sons and Daughters instead of TUI is because we're afraid that the cops are going to cop it out and take all the fucking money and freeze the accounts. And then what's the point? Right. And so all the money goes to Camorn. And so we get $5,000. The rest of the money will go to, help TUI with his expenses while those are, whatever. And also just another thing, TUI, obviously is growing right now, and you have Dank, you should probably show it to him. It's your right as a Michigander to gift TUI marijuana, I'm saying. But so that's GoFundMe.com/Michael Tui or /F/Michael Tui. You can donate anytime. You can find both of these links on Sons and Daughters United's Facebook page. It's really God. Let me say this. Chewy is probably the most generous and giving person I've seen him give over 100 people either or sell cannabis totally for free when they really needed it the most, especially cancer patients. Drive across the state, teach them how to do it. This was never a for-profit entity for him. And he drove down speaking of the holiday drive, he drove down after I had suffered a series of really bad birds, actually, and was unable to do a lot of the shopping. He drove down, shop for the families, did like $800 on his credit card. He was like, all the kids get Legos. I love Legos. It's like, too, I don't know if they all want Legos. He was like, what kids don't like Legos? And he spent like $200 on Legos. Tui's the shit. He's the most generous, awesome guy I've ever met. And he is definitely a victim of overpolicing, and he is also could be you, though. He could be you. He could be your friends. It is not just like
Hey, you muted yourself.
There's Brenda.
There she is. She's been outside smoking weed, my weed, your weed, the neighbor's weed. Knows what she's In fact, I knew she was here because I could smell solid dank. Like,
enter the room.
Yeah, well, even just enter the facility, like in the driveway, I was like, man, I think my mom's here. And then she came in. And I was like, yeah, I could smell that. Hopefully she has.
Not surprising.
She's good at that, you know.
Many people think they can just walk up and hang with Brenda. That's not always the case.
I have a competition going with the whiskey to see whose mom smokes more weed.
That started off with a little argument back and forth.
It's like a serious, like, I do wonder, though. Like, we just want to know, like, is it Rhonda or is it Brenda? Who's the real, like...
There's no real loser in that.
They're like a dynamic duo, right? Yeah.
Who's gonna, like, where's the end? You know what I'm saying?
Of course, we're happy for both of them that they found cannabis to enrich their lives with, to help them out with.
Just a reminder for Tui, like, the reason that you can smoke weed on probation if you're a medical marijuana patient is because Mike Tui paid his own fucking attorney fees, like over $10,000 of his own fucking money to go to the Supreme Court and fight for that shit. And so if you're out here and you're selling festivals after the announcement from the CRA, and you're making $30,000, and you think if you went to fucking jail you'd want to smoke weed on probation, you should get your med card A, and then you should donate to Tui's to GoFundMe. B.
Josie, not quite the correct
Ooh, I
spelling,
love
but you're
Mark.
Mark from now on, Josey, but your sentiment is not lost.
I love him so much. I will tell you, Mark and Tony met me with literally zero notice in Muskegon, did a whole festival for me. It drove down here, went to Big Cloud event, and just delivered all my stuff in my house while I was up doing the Juke Joint Jamboree. They're incredible. They're dedicated. They're so fucking nice to me for no reason. I'm so lucky. I have been really lucky to be raised in this industry, to get involved when I was 14, to meet people that are genuine and awesome. And Mark, Tony, Selena, the whole crew is amazing.
And Selena's at Grassy Knoll in Muskegon, which is a retail store. She's a manager there. And you're right. There are examples of the really good people who have been around in cannabis for a while and really like to help others. Just like you. And that's pretty much the end of our time, unless anybody else has anything they need to get on. I know I appreciate Anton being on earlier, and you guys for coming on and not only talking about this program, but many other things, and just a really good conversation. And thank you very much. We'll do it again. We'll definitely get an update on people who have gone through the program and the process that they went through. I'm really interested in that too. And we'll resume this conversation in the future. But Rick, if you don't mind wrapping us up.
Well, if you've been listening to the show today, you heard several different ways that you can help and make a difference in people's lives. And oftentimes we don't have time. We don't have the ability to donate our personal space in order to do this, but support the people who have. You heard several different email addresses or websites tonight. Go donate and help other people who are making a difference in the lives of folks around us. Whether you're a cannabis advocate, just a curious person, or you just have a generous heart. Everybody needs to step up. And as Josie mentioned, if you're making money on this industry, even if it's a little bit of money, if you're making money in an industry that was illegal just a few years ago, you sort of owe it to the people that got us here to keep them in your front brain. So
Work it into the formula. It's an obligation. Thanks a lot, everybody. Very good show. I appreciated it. I enjoyed the conversation myself. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Right.
See you guys.